Welcome to Through the Drama. Kris Harrison and Lauren Zima with you on this Thursday. Hope everybody is having a great day. And it's not okay how much I already start thinking it's the weekend on Thursday.
Because you want it to be the U.S. Open.
Well, the U.S. Open started today, and actually, we're on the air right now, and the U.S. Open is on the air right now. I don't want to turn people away from Merritt, but I'm just saying the U.S. Open's on right now.
I don't think that the audience that listens to and loves you is as obsessed with the U.S. Open as you might hope. Okay.
If there's any golfers watching right now, please send us a message.
A happy start to Father's Day weekend, everybody. And of course, we're coming to you from Austin, Texas, but we got to talk about some drama going on with one of our own, a Texas boy, Glen Powell. An actor who has had an amazing last couple of years. Of course, you know him from Top Gun Maverick. He kind of played the new version of Val Kilmer's Ice character in that movie.
Really, beyond Tom Cruise, he's the it guy right now. He really seems to be that guy.
Oh, you mean like I think Tom Cruise is kind of almost taking him in as like he's shepherding him and really guiding him in his career. And absolutely killed it with the rom-com Anyone But You with Sydney Sweeney that came out probably a little over a year ago and gave us hope that the rom-coms were returning. Well, when he did that movie with Sydney Sweeney, if you remember, a big part of the press surrounding the movie was their chemistry. Are they together or not? And it was a little questionable at the time because Sydney was actually engaged to this chef.
Right.
They've since called the engagement off, and they have since both become single, and people are now wondering if they're together. They went to a wedding together, a family wedding. Well, now Glen's ex from that time, Gigi Paris, is speaking out for the first time about what it was like to be dating him when reports were that he was with his co-star. I'm going to let everybody listen to a clip from the podcast Too Much. Here's Gigi Paris talking about her relationship with Glen.
Where are you when you just need to stand up and say, no, I would never cheat on my girlfriend. I wouldn't do that. That's all that needed to be said.
And that wasn't said.
Never once.
Yeah, so basically what she's saying there is at any time, she understood the business. And this is what I found very interesting, LZ, is that...
Because I think she's a model.
Yeah, she's a model, so she's in the business, and she understood what Glen was doing, and you got to get the PR going, and we got to sell this movie. But she said, at some point, you also have to be my boyfriend. You also have to, and they'd been together since the beginning of the pandemic, so it had been a few years. And she's like, at some point, you got to respect me, and you got to respect us.
What did you think?
I agree. So two things. I loved how matter of fact she was, because I agree with her. At some point, you got to be respectful. If you love this girl and you want to have a relationship, you got to say, guys, no, I love Lauren or I love Gigi, whatever it is. And, this is more important and we're just having fun for this movie. But I also like that she said, look, I understood what he had to do. And she got into the game with him as his career was taking off. And she says, I understand what it takes to make it. And it was kind of a nonchalant comment, but I took it as a much darker meaning of, when you, in any business, if you're like, this is what I got to do to make it, everybody else and everything else be damned. And that's kind of what Glen Powell had to do.
So was she saying that she was okay with them breaking up, or was she saying like...
No, she wasn't okay with it. It's just, she saw the writing on the wall, I guess is what she's saying.
Well, it's interesting because I saw some people, and we take all these little clips and then people only comment on one thing. I saw some people on X saying, well, she should have known what she was getting into with him. And it sounds like she's saying she did. I mean, I agree. I think that, sure, when you're promoting a movie, you got to have fun with your co-star and all that. But when the rumors at that time were strong, like, were these two together? There was a question of whether Sydney was wearing her engagement ring. And I think it's kind of that phrase of if he wanted to, he would. If he wanted to, he would have stood up and said, hey, guys, listen, Sydney and I are close friends. We're having fun on the movie, but I have a girlfriend who I love and adore. And he didn't do that.
Yeah, it was almost a Mr. and Mrs. Smith situation with Brad Pitt and Angelina, where it got to the are they or aren't they to they definitely are.
Well, Gigi said that he broke up with her and that she actually was then banned from the set of the movie. So if he wanted to, he would. He did that.
Yeah.
So very interesting. And I agree. I don't think that just because you're in a relationship in the spotlight, that means that people have to constantly question whether you're together to make your career happen.
And by the way, for the people that said she should have known, that they got together really before he had blown up, kind of pre-pandemic, and then his life really exploded post-pandemic with all these movies. But it was just really telling. And now, I mean, the rumors still persist.
By the way, well, right. But this is why so many relationships in Hollywood don't work. Like, I think what people might not totally, I always put it this simply. People are cast together in movies because they have chemistry. It is why affairs on set happen or whatever, because you're putting two people together like, oh, you guys kind of sparked in the audition. And you go and you spend a lot of time away from the people you love on a set with somebody, you're kissing in a scene. I get why it happens. But we do want to give a shout out to our girl, Sydney Sweeney.
Yeah, she's having a moment right now.
She was talking in a new interview with W Magazine about the muscle gain that she did for this new role where she plays a boxer. And she plays a boxer, gosh, named Christy something, I think, me in sports. But I thought that it was important for Sydney to share that, like, she did 3 months of training for this. A lot of the time you see a transformation a celebrity does for a role. And I think it kind of can make the average person or non-celebrity feel like inadequate. She had a personal trainer. She had someone telling her what to do, what to eat, all that for 3 months. That's why she looks that way, guys. And you want to talk about the soap?
Yes, real quick. We have to, if you remember, I think it was last week we said Sydney Sweeney was selling soap that had a little bit of her bathwater in it. Well, that soap, there's only 5,000 bars, sold out in less than a second. It crashed the website and now is on eBay for up to $2,000 a bar of soap.
Is that real?
For Sydney Sweeney's bathwater soap. How wild is that? So, Sydney Sweeney, you are having a moment. When we come back, we have some other news to jump into. One of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. Is he married? Who's he married to? We're about to find out right after this.
Welcome back to Through the Drama. Well, we just had kind of a full Glen Powell, Sydney Sweeney block of news. So let's move on to some other celebrities. I am such a Miley Cyrus fan.
I am too.
To watch her grow up in the spotlight, it's kind of wild, but she's in new interviews referring back to like that VMA Awards moment with Robin Thicke that she was judged so harshly for. And that made me think, wow, how far she's come. She's only 32. I think sometimes she seems older because she's been famous since she was a child, really. But Miley has this new album called Something Beautiful coming out, and she's doing some pretty deep interviews, doing press for this album and making some big reveals. One of them, she tells the New York Times, what would you guess is something Miley regrets?
I saw.
Okay.
She said of all of the many things, her tattoos. She said she regrets 80% of the tattoos she's gotten. I loved her quote.
I was kind of surprised by this because I usually think when somebody's sort of covered with tattoos like that, that they're very into it. And she said she regrets 80% of them.
She goes, a mistake that I made that I still think about is like 80% of my tattoos. So she has over 50 tattoos. She started getting them when she was 17 years old.
Wow. Yeah, she said something like, I love my cat, but I don't need him tattooed on my body.
Right. That was the one big, she goes, is there one in particular? And she says, yes.
It's my cat.
My cat. I love it, but come on.
I think, celebrities who grow up in the spotlight have such an abnormal growth path. But one piece of advice I'd give to probably anybody, try not to, and you will, but try not to make permanent decisions before your brain is permanently formed. That happens at about age 26. And I have regrets. We all do. We think we're adults. Our brain isn't really adulty yet. And those tattoos, she started at 17 with tattoos.
And wouldn't you say most of the regrets in life, if you talk to somebody, it will go back to those teen, early 20s years.
We're figuring it out.
Of getting married too soon, getting the tattoo, whatever it is, it's usually in that time. And you wish you could tell someone, hey, just hit the pause button.
But you know what? None of us listen.
If you love your cat today, you'll love him again tomorrow. It's okay. You don't need to put a picture of your cat on your arm.
She also talks about some of her insecurities that still stick with her, Miley. This was in an interview on Monica Lewinsky's podcast. She said she still to this day, because of all the body insecurities she got saddled with when she was young, wears what she calls like grandma swimsuits. And this was wild to me because I look at her and I think I've compared myself to her and thought, wow, she is so fit. Her body is so insane. And to hear Miley say that, it just really speaks, I think, to the pressures women face in society. None of us probably feel amazing about how we look.
And I by the way, I agree with she has made it out of the Hannah Montana days and the early days. And she's done an amazing job. The way she's handled herself.
Oh my gosh.
And by the way, one of the best voices of our generation.
I wanted to ask you about one thing she said, because she also told Monica that she struggled with a time where her own siblings told her, we don't, like, it's hard for us to be related to you. They said when she was going through these ups and downs and all these fame moments, like, I think it was her brother said, like, look, I love you, but like, sometimes I don't really want to say that you're my sister.
Wow.
And I wondered,
because it all becomes about her.
Well, yeah. I wanted to ask you what that meant, because you got famous around age 30, and I know you've had these issues with family or friends sometimes.
Yeah, well, it just gets to the point where you care about your friends so much and you want the spotlight to be on them. And then sometimes, even when you're trying so hard to make sure that spotlight is on somebody else, it then becomes about you. Either someone walks up to the table, there's a commotion, something where it's turned back on you. And there is a guilt. There's a weird guilt to that. So I understand what she's talking about and all that.
Well, a lot of insight from Miley. We love you, Miley.
I want to talk about Aaron Rodgers. And I'm not going to make you talk about sports yet. But so Aaron Rodgers, obviously kind of legendary quarterback, and he just signed a one-year deal with the Pittsburgh Steelers, which was kind of controversial and crazy because he had been bouncing around and no one knew where he was going to end up. And he was signing his new contract with the Steelers, and a sports reporter said, hey, is that a ring on your finger? And he says, oh yeah, I'm married. Been married for months. No one had any idea he was married, and he's such a public figure. You know, he publicly dated Olivia Munn, Danica Patrick. He was engaged to Shailene Woodley. And then all of a sudden, he's just married. It's such an Aaron Rodgers thing to do. We think we know who.
Okay.
We're not sure, but we are 82.3% sure. It's a woman named Brittany, and I'm saying that correctly because he was on the Pat McAfee show, and he said he was dating this girl named Brittany, not Brittany. It was Brittany with an I, and he alluded to the fact that he was very much in love, and then he was telling the guys, hey, it feels good.
Here's the thing. I'm not going to be surprised if it's not Brittany. Like, when you were sitting here saying, we think we know who, I don't think I know who. I never know what Aaron Rodgers is going to do next.
Right.
I don't mean that in a complimentary nor critical way. I don't know what this man is doing. He confuses me. Take sports out of it. I know who he is from all of his relationships and all that. From, he had a Bachelor connection with Jordan and JoJo. I don't know what Aaron Rodgers is doing. I'm confused by what he stands for, what he cares about, what he weighs in on. He's one of the most baffling celebrities of our time. That's how I feel.
Is it the ayahuasca? Is it the
ayahuasca? But you could call it ayahuasca from the reaction.
Yes.
That is actually a better name for it, honey.
But yeah, so he talked about, being in love or having this relationship with Brittany, but you're right. We don't know. It wouldn't shock me if like, oh no, it's a totally different person and I'm married and life is good.
Well, you know what? I'll give Aaron credit for this. He has a very impressive roster of former Flames. Let's talk about a woman we like more.
Well, I'll just say this to put a pin in it. Yeah. He is a guy who just, moves to the beat of his own drum, and he seems to be unfazed by reality and what's going on in the world. So
unfazed by reality, the Aaron Rodgers story.
But you're right. So I'm excited about this.
You are?
Yes. I love the Wonder Woman movies.
Okay. The latest news, another thing I couldn't believe. There is a new Wonder Woman movie in the works. Mm-hmm. This comes on the heels of the new Superman movie that has been a very costly film, but is, from what we're hearing, very good.
Comes out July 11th.
So James Gunn, the guy behind it, who's sort of been charged with revitalizing DC's superhero arsenal, says that he's working on a new Wonder Woman movie. And he says the part is not cast yet. It is not going to go to Gal Gadot. Yeah.
So, Superman comes out July 11th. There is a Supergirl already in the can, and that comes out next June 2026. So Supergirl. And
I'm exhausted.
And then,
I can't watch any more.
You didn't. I love
movies.
The Gal Gadot.
The first one was good.
The first one was good. The second one was not great.
And I love Kristen Wiig, and she was in the second one, but it was not watchable.
And that's when they canceled the third one. There was a third incarnation already set to be done. They canceled that. I think Patty Jenkins, who directed the first two, was going to do the third one, and they canceled it because the second one was not well done. So they've given it. So here's why I think it works. They're giving it some time. Let's let it breathe. And let's revisit. It kind of reminds me of the Mission Impossible situation with Final Reckoning, where they shot both. They hit the pause button because the first one didn't do great, and the second one has done well.
Okay, but here's why I totally disagree with you.
Okay.
Because Tom Cruise is still playing Ethan Hunt.
You're right.
It's still the same storyline. What we have now done, when the whole superhero movie thing first started about 10 years ago, okay, we were getting like a new Batman, but we hadn't had a Batman in years. Well, I don't know. I guess in the 90s, we had like 4 different Batmen. And maybe that was where some of the fatigue came from. To me, it just hasn't been long enough since we had Gal as Wonder Woman. Now, granted, he says he's writing it, so this won't come out for a couple years, and maybe it will feel like enough time since then. But it already feels sort of quick to me that we have this new Superman. I'm still remembering Henry Cavill from not long ago.
Who probably should have still been Superman.
How many Supermen is too many Supermen? How many Wonder Women are there? I'm more baffled by Aaron Rodgers than this.
I'm surprised though that you're not excited about this, that the reboot. I get it. We all have superhero fatigue.
That's what it is.
Where between Marvel, between DC, between the reincarnation of these and the way they are used by the studios, because they do well, usually, not always, but they usually do well. And so it's just been this thing, this crutch that the studios have been leaning on time and time again.
But I'll end with this. I'm easily bought. If the new Superman movie is good, absolutely. Then I'll suddenly be on board for Wonder Woman. What it comes down to for me at the end of the day is always quality. You can give me a million good movies. I think that's why people are a little burnt out on Marvel now, because the movie stopped being as good.
And
that's
look,
why.
I don't trust David Zaslav, who is involved in this Wonder Woman situation, but who I do believe in is James Gunn.
Yeah, he hasn't let us down.
He has not let us down. When we come back, it's Father's Day weekend, and we have a lot to say about that right after this.
We're back. Quick question on Aaron Rodgers. As a celebrity, do you have to tell people you're married?
No.
No.
I kind of respect his privacy and all this, and I love the fact that he is wearing a wedding ring. I mean, it's not that he's ashamed of it or trying to hide it. And when a guy asks, he says, "Yeah, I'm married."
I'm married.
And everyone's like, "Cool, okay, moving on."
Moving on. All right, well, let's move on to Father's Day. Father's Day weekend, and there's so many different ways we could take this, but I think we just want to make it personal and talk about our dads. And I'll go first, because what I want to make a little space for is Father's Day can be both incredibly joyful and for some people incredibly painful. I'm sending my love to everybody who maybe has recently lost a dad or never had a dad, or your dad disappointed you. And these days can sometimes be, I feel like a little punch to the gut. I shout out to our favorite deodorant brand, Hume. They sent an email last week saying, check this if you don't want to receive Father's Day emails. And I kind of love when companies do that, because our culture can inundate us with all these things that even if we're trying to protect ourselves, it's hard. I don't get to talk about my dad a lot because he's not around, and sometimes people are uncomfortable when you talk about those who aren't with us. And my dad's name was Gary. He was an absolutely wonderful father. I say that because the biggest thing to me about being a parent is he put us above everything. His kids and his family were everything to him. And I miss him every day, and he's with me every day. And I am so grateful for the example he set for me and for the foundation of love that he gave me. And I'm just remembering him today. And I also want to give a shout out to a new dad we have in our lives. My sisters and her husband, Andrew, had little baby Cameron this year. And Andrew, you have been an absolutely phenomenal father in your first year as a dad. I know that we are thinking of your dad, Dennis, who's no longer with us as well. But I know he's looking down on you, and he is just so proud. So shout out to the new dads and those who are still with us.
One of my great regrets, unfortunately, I didn't get to meet your dad.
Yeah.
But I am so grateful for the job that he did and the amazing family that he helped raise. And this, by the way, some people have asked, is this your cowboy hat over your shoulder, over here in the corner? And it's not my cowboy hat. It's actually Lauren's dad's. It's Gary's. I've always wanted to have that around. It's always been in our office. And so it's a big personal item that on this Father's Day, just wanted to point out that he's always with us, and I am grateful for him and grateful for my dad, Steve Harrison, who was a wonderful dad, is a wonderful dad. I'm grateful he's still with me. And I think one of the things about you and your dad is I become more grateful for the relationships that I have with my parents when they are still with us. And so I try to talk to him as much as I can. We don't live in the same town. He's down in South Texas, where my brother lives, but I see him as much as I can. We talk. hunting and fishing and learning to change a tire and all the things that you get from your dad and playing sports. But mainly it's just teaching you how to be proud of your name, how to hold that name, the foundation you set in your life, right and wrong, the faith in your life, how to be a loving man, a good citizen, a good brother, a good husband, all those things I take from my dad. A wonderful man. And I enjoy our conversations more and more now as we get older. And I think that happens. Obviously, I'm a dad. We have the kids, and I'm excited to spend our weekend with the kids, Josh and Taylor. And the older you get, the more those moments, when you were a kid and when the kids were younger, you get up and you're making pancakes and, the kids will give you an ugly tie or whatever. And it's just kind of a day, right? But the older you get and the older our kids get, the more I appreciate every hug, every moment, every story, every instance where you get to be with them, because you realize you don't get to drive them around in a car anymore. Mm-hmm. You don't get to go to their games anymore because they don't play, So I just relish these moments. So this weekend when we slow down, we watch the final round of the US Open and I put some steaks on the grill and get to sit down and have conversations with our kids. It's something I very much relish and look forward to.
Watching you as a dad has made me a better person. You're such a good father. I sometimes thank The Bachelor because I think working through all those emotional things with people made you a really good dad.
Emotional trauma.
You know how to talk to our kids about their dating lives. Yeah. And one thing you've set an example with is openness. You've made a really open, safe space for the kids to come to you and they talk to you about everything. So Thank you for leading with that example of fatherhood. Thank you to all the dads, whether biological or not, whether just a mentor, for that figurehead that you are in somebody's life. We love you. Happy Father's Day. Thanks, everybody.
Hey, Dr. Phil here. My network, Merit TV, has it all.
Now, let me blow your mind.
Merit TV's got the news that matters.
The selection of a new pope.
Entertainment you crave.
Busted.
Everybody in good mood today?
And live events.
Surprise.
What am I, chopped liver?
With serious punch.
Big shot.
Go to merittv.com and download the Merit TV app today.